What this video is not going to do is tell you where you should be setting your Tonex global input trim, which seems to be a really hot topic and has been for a long time. And it's because a lot of folks just don't really understand how it's working. What this video is going to do is give you some very important information to help you to make the proper decisions, since after watching this, you will actually understand how the global input trim works under the hood in Tonex Pedal and Tonex One. Let's head over and take a look and see what this is all about. All right, so a quick explanation of how I'm actually set up here. I am plugged into Tonex One with a test signal so that we can get a nice accurate reading here, something very steady. I also have Tonex software hooked up so that we can see the changes to Tonex One over here. So basically over here in Reaper, I am set to have Tonex One as the audio interface. So everything you're going to see happen in Tonex One, and this is very important, is happening after the analog to digital conversion, since how else would we see it in the computer, right? This is feeding it via USB, which is a digital signal. So whatever is entering Tonex One on its instrument input, which is going to be the test signal first, later I'll showcase this with the guitar as well, this is going to be hitting the analog to digital converter, and then it's going to be showing up here in Reaper. So I'm going to activate this test signal. It's reading it at minus 8.0 dBFS with the pedal disengaged. Now you might ask how I'm doing that. So come over here to Tonex software. Now if I click onto dual mode, we know now that there is no way of bypassing the pedal. I have the pedal down here on the desk, as you can maybe see a little bit. But as I click the button, I just switch between these two different tone models. Well, I want to go to stomp mode, where we have the ability to bypass the pedal altogether, because that's where the important information is going to be. So when I've bypassed the pedal, I'm getting this reading of minus 8 dBFS in Reaper. When I click on the pedal to engage it, it's now being fed into this tube screamer. So obviously by processing it, we get a different reading here, and this is coming down to minus 15.1. So again, I'll turn it off just so that we're getting the clean, dry signal. This is the important point. If we come to Tonex input trim setting here, what we see is it does not affect anything that's happening here in the digital realm. What that tells me is that the input trim is not happening before the A to D converter. If it was, then by adjusting this, we would see a change here as well, and we simply are not. Doesn't matter what I do to this global input trim, it does not change the unprocessed digital signal. Now, if I engage Tonex One pedal, obviously we get a drop here. Now, as I bring this up, you will see a change, and that's telling you because now with the tone model engaged, the input trim is hitting the front of that tone model harder. Now it's showing here that it's really well into clipping, but it's really not clipping at all. The way we can prove this is by just listening. We're actually hearing it being processed through a tube screamer, so it's going to have a distorted sound, but it's not the digital clipping a lot of people think. So if I come over here, crank this up to where it says it's clipping, but just bring the gain knob back on my tone model, I get the exact same thing happening here. And you'll notice, even though this is saying clipping, it's not clipping the converters. And I can also bring this down and raise the gain knob. We're going to get the same setting. So again, it doesn't show that it's clipping, but I've cranked the gain knob up, so it's saturating this tube screamer model more. The only way that we're actually going to get digital clipping going into Tonex Pedal or Tonex One, and keep in mind, everything I'm talking about here applies both to Tonex Pedal and Tonex One. The only way we're going to get digital clipping is if the guitar that we are plugged into Tonex Pedal or Tonex One with, or whatever we have plugged into there, if that signal surpasses the maximum input level of the converters, then we're going to get digital clipping. That has nothing to do with the global input trim in any way, shape, or form. And this is the most important part, because a lot of folks keep saying, well, we got to use the global input trim high because we have to maximize signal to noise ratio. It's not doing that. It can't be doing that. The signal has already been converted at a fixed setting within Tonex Pedal and Tonex One, and anything we do after that is not going to maximize signal to noise ratio. It's simply just going to hit the front of the tone model harder, much in the same way the gain knob does. Let's see how this works now with the guitar plugged straight into Tonex One pedal. Okay, so now I'm plugged into Tonex One directly with my fairly low output Vigier Expert Strat, and I have one of my JS Rect Z Ultimate tone models on Tonex One pedal. This is a really favorite tone model of mine, based off of my incredible Dr. Z Z-Rect Junior amp. Sounds just beautiful. Now, let's go over to our input trim settings here. Now, this is on the default 8.5. Now, that's oversaturating this particular tone model. But if I for a second come back to our stomp mode and just disengage the preset, you're going to see what my guitar is sounding like within Tonex One, just the DI dry guitar. You can see that I am nowhere near clipping over here. In fact, I've got a nice amount of headroom. I'm not going to be clipping the converters, but what happens over here, and let's come back to our dual mode and engage our preset. Now, if I come over to input trim here, watch what happens with the default setting of 8.5. When I hit hard, I am showing that I'm clipping. I'm not actually clipping anything. I'm just hitting the front of the tone model harder. Now, if you like the way that sounds, then there's your answer. But you aren't doing any damage. You're not clipping anything at all. You're just hitting the front of the tone model. Now, I could have accomplished that by just using the gain control. So I could have brought this, let's say, back to, I don't know, -3, where I actually captured this, and just used the gain control on Tonex One to bring it back up. Because we now know without a shadow of a doubt that the gain control is doing the exact same thing as the global input trim. So a setting like this would be extremely similar to something like this. Except here it's showing that I'm clipping, but we know we're not actually clipping. So basically, there is absolutely no benefit to running global input trim way up here. In Tonex Pedal, it does give us the awful situation of potentially ruining the USB dual mode feature where we want to maybe use it as an audio interface and capture our DI guitar. In that case, this would just be capturing in our DAW and clipping. So I always set mine around -3 here. You can do whatever you want. I'm not telling anybody where to set it, but we can see there's no benefit to setting it higher. I like this because it kind of equates in the ballpark of what a Line 6 Helix maximum input level would be. And then I can simply go to the gain control on my preset or tone model. And adjust to taste either higher or lower, and it's really just going to work that simply. So now we understand there is just no benefit to running this global input trim that hot. It's gaining us nothing. We can simply, as I've said so many times and so many people like to argue about, that we can simply use the gain knob within the tone model or the preset to dial it in wherever we want while leaving ourselves a more reasonable amount of headroom, which would be more in the ballpark of a lot of modern audio interfaces at their minimum input gain on the instrument in. All right, there you have it. I hope that was helpful. I really do think this is some very important information. And there's so many people out there who are explaining this in an incorrect fashion, saying that by boosting your global input trim, you're going to maximize your signal to noise ratio. That's simply not true. Or that using the global input trim is somehow different than just the gain control per preset. And that's just not true either. Both of them are simple input controls that are happening after the analog to digital conversion and before hitting the actual tone model. So this information can really simplify things, and I really hope it does help you to use your Tonex pedal in a more informed fashion and really speed up your workflow when utilizing Tonex Pedal and Tonex One. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please share this video with as many folks as you can. I think it's really important information to get out there. Also, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'm going to leave you today with the demo video for my Rect Z Ultimate tone models that you heard a little bit of in this video, and I hope you enjoy the music on the way out. Links are below to these tone models if you're so inclined. Thanks again for sharing your time with me. Ciao for now.